Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the first Joker Cast, live on Ustream. Welcome also to the inaugural episode. Welcome to the inaugural episode. Welcome to the inaugural episode of Quit Your Whining. I am your host, Matthew Admiral Joker Majeski. Now, it's kind of been a while since I've done any kind of live stream or anything, at least, like this anyways. So I figured it might be time to do something a little bit, different. So, we're going to be doing this. Quit Your Whining's going to be my political show. You've seen me do 40W Network and shows like that in the past, but really haven't done anything, political in a while. I used to have gaming politics, but, that kind of went away. We kind of had some behind the scenes things going on, but I'm not going to get into that. So, this is my show, and your show too. If you're watching live, feel free to contact me via Skype at Admiral Joker. You can also contact me on Facebook. Okay. Also, text me in the chat. Either way, I'll be sure to, like some interaction during the show. Now, it seems like a little awkward, but it's kind of late at night, and I'm mainly doing it now because, my work schedule permitting, this is the only time I have to do it. But I'll probably do more once I get to a different work schedule and things get a little more normal probably around next week. With the elections coming up, there's going to be a lot to talk about. So let's go ahead and get started with what really kind of, inspired me to do this show again. We're going to start with probably one of the more controversial topics right now going on, and that is gun control. Now, there's been a lot of mass shootings lately, and arguably, there's always always shootings going on. But in any case, these shootings have inspired our fearless leader to go ahead and draft up an executive order on what he's going to do with with gun control, with what he likes to call common sense gun control. Yes, I'm doing the air quotes. My God, I'm so 1990s. Anyways, the common sense gun control, which is, Obama has been touting for a while, and his, something that needs to happen. So he decided to issue an executive order. Was it an executive order, actually? Pretty much him saying what he's going to do. And, a lot of conservatives are already up in arms saying, oh my God, King Obama's once again issued an edict. I am a conservative, and there are a lot of things he does that I don't agree with. But is that really the case in this time? Is he really just is he bypassing Congress to push forward his gun legislation, or is he actually just saying what he's going to do? What I have here is the White House fact sheet that was released. So we're going to go ahead and look at it and see what it says and what's going on. So now I'm not going to put it up on the screen for people to read, mainly because be honest, I'm a little, I don't have it all set up yet, but I'm going to read it out loud and then give my thoughts on the individual line items. So, all right, so let's go ahead and get started. New action by the federal government, keeping guns out of the wrong hands through background checks. Funny, I kind of thought we already were doing that. The most important thing we can do to prevent gun violence is to make sure those who commit violent acts cannot get a firearm in the first place. Obviously. The National Instant Criminal Background Check System, NICS, was created by Congress to prevent guns from being sold to prohibitive individuals, is a critical tool in achieving this goal. According to the Bureau of Justice Statistics, the background check system has prevented more than 2 million guns from getting into the wrong hands. We all know that making the system more efficient and ensuring that it has all the appropriate records about prohibited purchases will help enhance public safety. Today, the administration is announcing the following executive actions to ensure that all gun dealers are licensed and run background checks, and to strengthen the background check system itself. Okay, so pretty much we're going to make sure we're doing what we're supposed to be doing. Got it. Okay. So, clarify that it doesn't matter whether you conduct your business from a store, a gun shows, Or over the internet, if you are in the business of selling firearms, you must get a license and conduct background checks. Background checks have been shown to keep guns out of the wrong hands, but too many gun sales, particularly online and gun shows, occur without basic background checks. Today, the administration took action to ensure that anyone who is engaged in the business of selling firearms is licensed and conducts background checks on their customers. Consistent with court rulings on the issue, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, ATF, almost forgot the E in there, has clarified the following principles. Okay, before we get into the principles, a couple things. First off, all dealers, as far as I know, are licensed, and background checks are required by law for all dealers. The definition of dealer is probably what they're going to get into in this brief, and they do. A person can be engaged in the business of dealing in firearms regardless of the location in which firearm transactions are conducted. For example, a person can be engaged in the business of dealing in firearms even if the person only conducts firearm transactions at gun shows or through the internet. Those engaged in the business of dealing in firearms who utilize the internet or other technologies must obtain a license, just as a dealer whose business is run out of the traditional brick and mortar store. Okay, a couple quick points here I want to bring up because the internet and gun shows are brought up quite often. So let's go ahead and start with the internet sales. Now, most of the time, as far as I know, if you buy a gun from the internet, I know a lot of this legitimate sites, they actually, some states require them to send the gun to a local dealer and they do the background checks and necessary stuff. You can't get the gun until those checks are completed. They don't mail you the gun through the mail. At least it's the ones that I've seen, they don't. I could be wrong. I did some research and really kind of skittish on that. But for the most part, that is what they do when it comes to internet sales, at least through the sites I use. That's what they do. They send it to a dealer charges a fee, and he does all the necessary checks and everything. They already do that. Also, the gun shows. Okay, so here's the thing with gun shows. According to the Bureau of Justice, only 0.7% of convicts bought their guns at gun shows. 0.7. However, 39.2 obtained them from illegal street dealers. How is regulating gun shows going to solve anything? Just asking. Doesn't quite make any sense to me. You're going after the gun shows, but they're not the ones that are giving the guns to the criminals. Little confused on that one. All right, let's continue. Quantity and frequency of sales are relevant indicators. There are no specific threshold number of firearms purchased or sold that triggers the license requirement, but it is important to note that even a few transactions, when combined with other evidence, can be sufficient to establish a person is engaged in the business. For example, courts have upheld convictions for dealing without a license with as few as 2 firearms were sold or when only 2 transactions took place, when other factors are also present. Okay, so they're trying to say they need to establish better guidelines on what qualifies you as a dealer. Okay, I agree with that. If they want to do that, fine. Cool with that. That is well within their boundaries, and I'm fine with that. If you want to say, hey, if you do this, you're a dealer. I agree with that. You shouldn't be able to skirt around whether or not you're a dealer and avoid having to do the tasks that dealers need to do. You're required by law to do it, then you need to do it. If you're engaged in selling firearms, then you need to do it. And I am blowing myself out with this light, aren't I? Ironically, the light of my monitor is bright enough to actually just keep me going. Okay. There we go. That's a little bit better. Not really, because my monitor is blowing me out. Awesome. Really need to get a better monitor. Anyways. So, that's not really going to curb gun sales. Or, you're trying to say... Where was I? Oh, yeah. Sorry. Yeah, distraction. What they're trying to say is that they're able to sell. They're trying to define what qualifies you as a dealer. I'm okay with that. No problem. That's fine. Okay. There are criminal penalties for failing to comply with the requirements. A person who willfully engages in these business of dealing firearms without a required license is subject to prosecution and can be sentenced up to 5 years in prison and fined up to $250,000. Dealers are also subject to penalties for failing to conduct background checks before a completed sale. Okay, so they're pretty much just laying out the penalties for not obeying the law. All right, fine, whatever. Nothing. So far, I just agree with the fact they're trying to single out gun shows and internet sales as a problem when in reality, they're not a problem. Only problem I really have so far with this thing. Okay. Requiring background checks for people trying to buy some of the most dangerous weapons and other items through a trust or corporation. The National Firearms Act imposes restrictions on sales of the most dangerous weapons, such as machine guns and sawed-off shotguns. But because of the outdated regulations, individuals have been able to avoid the background check requirements by attempting to acquire the firearms and other items through trusts, corporations, and other legal entities. In fact, the number of these applications increased significantly over the years, from fewer of 900 applications in the year 2000 to more than 90,000 applications in 2014. ATF is finalizing a rule to make it clear that people will no longer be able to avoid background checks by buying NFA guns and other items through a trust or corporation. Okay, so trust. I kind of had to do a little research in this one because I've heard this before, but I wasn't really familiar with it. My understanding here is that purchasing guns through a trust or corporation is essentially, it gets around it helps you with the restriction that prevents you from getting Title II weapons. These are shotguns and silencers, sawed-off shotguns, silencers, I think automatic weapons, things like that. They aren't actually illegal, they're just restricted. But here's the thing. There's two ways of going about it. One, to purchase them individually or through a corporation or trust. Now, purchasing through a trust or to purchase them individually isn't easy. Often they require background checks, but also the signature of the chief law enforcement officer of your jurisdiction. That part is almost impossible. Very few ever do it. Now, to get around it, they'll use a trust or corporation to try and purchase the weapons. And to do that, you don't need fingerprints, you don't need photographs, and you don't need the signature of the chief law enforcement officer. And the other difference, and this is the big one, if you do it as an individual, only you can use the gun. As a trust or corporation, other people can too. Now, in most states, even if you do this, when you go to purchase the weapons, they do run background checks and are required. I don't think they always do it, but some do. They're trying to say here that they want to make it so they do. I think what they're trying to do is say they are requiring to do background checks if you do this for the people purchasing them. I agree with that. Now, there are going to be some problems with that. Mainly in the fact that if they do that, you're going to have a really big problem with corporations. Mainly security agencies use this method in order to get their weapons. So do, I don't know if law enforcement does, but I'm pretty sure they probably do. If not, I'd be surprised. But still, there's already restrictions in place for this. Plus, you have to go through an application process for the trust and the corporation to get the weapons. So there is an actual process involved in these. But, still. Let's continue. Ensure states are providing records to background checks systems and work cooperatively with jurisdictions to improve reporting. Okay. Congress has prohibited specific categories of people from buying guns, from convicted felons to users of illegal drugs to individuals convicted of misdemeanor crimes of domestic violence. In wake of the shooting of Virginia Tech in 2007, Congress also created incentives for states to make as many relevant records as possible accessible to the NICS. Over the past 3 years, states have increased the number of records that they make available, accessible by nearly 70%. To further encourage this reporting, the Attorney General has written a letter to the states highlighting the importance of receiving complete criminal history and records from criminals, from criminal history records and criminal dispositions, and information on persons qualified for mental health reasons and qualifying crimes of domestic violence. The administration will begin a new dialogue with states to ensure the background check system is as robust as possible, which is a public safety imperative. Okay, so this says we're going to make sure that all the information we need is given to us so we can better build our database to help with the criminal background check system. Okay, I get that, but there are some problems with that. I'll get into that a little later when we get further on. I'll bring it up. Trust me, we're going to be coming back to that. Make the background check system more efficient and effective. In 2015, NICS received more than 22.2 million background check requests, an average of more than 63,000 per day. By law, a gun dealer can complete a sale to a customer if their background check comes back clean, or has taken more than 3 days to complete. But features of the current system, which was built in the 1990s, are outdated. The FBI will take the following steps to ensure that NICS operates more efficiently and effectively to keep the guns out of the wrong hands. FBI hired more than 230 additional NICS examiners and other staff members to assist with processing mandatory background checks. This new hiring will begin immediately and increase the existing workforce by 50%. This will reduce the strain on the NICS system and improves its ability to identify dangerous peoples who are prohibited from buying a gun before the transfer of the firearm is completed. Okay, fine, gotta hire more people. FBI is partnering with the U.S. Digital Service to modernize NICS. That's a good thing. Make it more automated. Although NICS has been routinely upgraded since its launch in 1998, the FBI is committed to making the system more efficient and effective so there are as many background checks as possible are fully processed within the 3-day period before a dealer can legally sell a gun, even if a background check is not complete. Okay. The improvements envisioned by the FBI and the USDS includes processing background checks 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to improve overall response time and improving notification of local authorities when certain prohibited persons unlawfully attempt to purchase a firearm. Okay, so you want to take the current system, upgrade it, make it better. Okay, why do we need an executive order on this? Just do it. And why haven't we been doing that already? Bureaucracy. Anyways, gotta love it. Making our community safer from gun violence. Ooh. In order to improve public safety, we need to do more to ensure smart and effective enforcement of our gun laws and make sure that criminals or prohibited persons cannot get their hands on stolen weapons. The administration is therefore taking the following actions. Ensure smart and effective enforcement of gun laws. Well, no shit. In a call earlier today to the Attorney General discussed the importance of today's announcement and directed the nation's 93 U.S. attorneys across this country to continue to focus their resources as they have for the past several years under the department's Smart on Crime initiative. Ooh, I love that. Really. On the most impactful cases, including the targeted violent offenders, illegal firearms, traffickers, and dangerous individuals who bypass the background check system to acquire weapons illegally. During the call, the Attorney General also emphasized ongoing initiatives to assist communities in combating violent crime, including ATF's efforts to target the worst and the worst gun crimes. These efforts will also complement the following actions announced today. Okay. I'll finish this whole thing, then we'll talk about the whole thing. The President's budget for fiscal year 2017 will include 200 new ATF agents and investigators who are going to help enforce our gun laws, including the measures announced today. Strategic and impactful enforcement will help take the violent criminals off the street, deter other unlawful activities, and prevent guns from getting into the wrong hands. Right. ATF is dedicating $4 million and additional personnel to enhance the National Integrated Ballistics Information Network, NIBIN. The NIBIN database includes ballistic evidence and be used by analysis and investigators to link violent crimes across jurisdictions and track down shooters who prey on our communities. Yeah, you've seen that thing in like CIS and CSI and shit. In February 2016, ATF is standing up the National NIBIN Correlation and Training Center, which will ultimately provide NIBIN matching services at one national location rather than requiring local police departments to do the work themselves. Okay. The center will provide consistent and capable correlation services, making the connection between the ballistic crimes evidence and crime guns locally, regionally, and nationally. The enhancements will support ATF's crime gun intelligence and enforcement efforts, particularly in communities most affected by violent crime. What, like Chicago? Anyways, ATF has established an Internet Investigations Center, staff federal agents, legal counsel, and investigators to track illegal online firearms trafficking and to provide actionable intelligence to agents in the field. The IIC has already identified a number of significant traffickers operating over the Internet. The work has led to the prosecution against individual groups using the dark net to traffic guns to criminals or attempting to buy firearms illegally online. Ooh, the evil dark net. Ooh. All right, so this whole thing pretty much just says they're going to be trying to create better enforcement of our gun laws. I'll say right now that the enforcement of the gun laws is a problem. Just look at Chicago and places like that. But I'm not going to say that the laws is the problem. It's more or less the communities that are a problem. I may get into that later, but I do believe that they do need to focus on these communities where they have high amounts of violence. And they do need to do something. But I don't think trying to just remove the guns is going to solve a problem. Excuse me. We've seen before that removing guns, like in Britain, does not curb violent crime. It doesn't. In fact, some studies show it actually makes it worse. But that's a topic we'll get into in another discussion. I'm reading this right now. Ensure that dealers notify law enforcement about the theft or loss of their guns. I'm going to skip that section. I think I've droned on enough with this whole thing. Pretty much they're saying that over the past 5 years, an average of 133 guns recovered in criminal investigations were tracked back to a licensee that claimed it never received the gun, though it was never reported lost or stolen either. Essentially, they're trying to say, y'all need to tell people when your guns get stolen, and these dealers need to report it as well. There are also some law enforcement agencies who also haven't done this. Guns have gone missing, and they've stayed quiet. There's been some news articles on that, and I know some people on the internet like Hart Fisher have been rather vocal about that. Look it up. I think L.A. was one of the counties. L.A., they lost some guns, like a rather large significant in that area. There's some crazy shit like that. I don't have time to look it up right now, but it's pretty fucked up, and it's not that uncommon. Issuing a memo every U.S. attorney to renew domestic violence and outreach efforts, and if in an event of an emergency, victims of domestic violence should call 911 or other contact state local officials who have a broader range of options for responding to these crimes. Okay. To provide an additional resource for state, local, and tribal law enforcement and community groups focused on domestic violence, the Attorney General issued a memo directing U.S. attorneys around the country to engage in renewed efforts to coordinate with these groups to help combat domestic violence and to prevent prohibited persons from obtaining firearms. Okay, fine. Here's where things get a little weird. Okay. So the administration is the increased mental health treatment and reporting to the background check system. Okay. This is where shit has always been a little, you're crossing some lines. I'll explain why. The administration is committed to improving health care in Americans experiencing mental health issues. This paragraph I'm about to just skim over just pretty much just says Obamacare is great. Love the Obamacare. Really all it says. How people who didn't get help can now, blah, 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 blah. It's really all it says. Now, dedicate significant new resources to increase access to mental health care. Okay. Despite significant gains, less than half the children and adults. Okay. To address this, the administration proposed a new $500 million investment to engage individuals with serious mental health care, improve access to services supplied with the behavioral health workforce, and to ensure that the behavioral health care system works for everyone. Pretty much is just saying they're going to try and put more money into the system, trying to help people who need to help get help. I'm actually okay with that. We really do have a problem with making mental health services available to everyone. I seriously think that's a very big, important thing. If they're willing to put some money into the system to help with that, I think it should, because a lot of insurances don't cover it very well. Here's the part where it's going to cause me to have problems. Include information from the Social Security Administration in the background check system about beneficiaries who are prohibited from possessing firearms. Current law prohibits individuals from buying a gun if, because of a mental health issue, they are a danger to themselves or others and are unable to manage their own affairs. Okay, fine with that. The Social Security Administration indicated it will begin rulemaking process to ensure that appropriate information in its records is reported to NICS. The reporting to the SA in consultation with the DOJ is better require that the cover records of approximately 750,000 people each year who have a documented mental health issue, receive disability benefits, and are unable to manage those benefits because of their mental impairment, or have been found by state or federal court to be legally incompetent. The rulemaking will also provide a mechanism for people to seek relief from the federal prohibition on possession of a firearm for reasons related to mental health. Remove unnecessary legal barriers preventing from reporting relevant information to the background checks system. Although the states generally report the criminal history information to NICS, many continue to report little information about the individual who are prevented by federal law for possessing or receiving a gun for specific mental health issue reasons. Some state officials have raised concerns about whether the reporting would be precluded by the privacy rule issued under the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act of 1996, HIPAA. Today, the Department of Health and Human Services issued a final rule expressly permitting certain HIPAA-covered entities to provide the NICS limited demographic and other necessary information about these individuals. Okay, so here's the thing about this mental health thing. If you have a mental health condition, they can take guns from you. Now, right now, it's kind of general or a little. They're trying to make it a little more broader than it is now. For instance, if you are depressed, they want someone to take your guns away. If you live with somebody who's depressed, they want to take your guns away because they're afraid the person who's depressed might get them. They also want to do anybody who lives with people who have significant mental health issues to prevent them from owning guns so the people with the mental health issues can't get them. Now, I'm not on board with that. Not at all. Because you're essentially banning people from getting a gun without due process or any type of legal representation or any legal findings. Now, if you've been, if you've been Baker acted or there's some sort of court order has been issued on you, I could see how that might work on reasoning on that. Or, if the person, is schizophrenic with violent tendencies, and I kind of understand that, but we're kind of crossing into some gray areas here where we're doing, a person's mental state determines whether or not you should have a gun, and the people who you live with as well. Because if I live with someone who has a mental health problem, I could be banned from getting guns in some places, and they're trying to pass that as a law in other areas. I think I have some problems with that, because you're essentially taking away people's rights without due process, and you're punishing them for taking care of someone who has a mental health condition. Sorry, not okay in my book. All right. Almost done, I promise. Come more. Shaping the future of gun safety technology. This one's like, what the fuck kind of shit. Tens of thousands of people are injured or killed with firearms every year. Right. In many cases, guns that were sold illegally, but then stolen, misused, or discharged accidentally. I'm going to look up the statistics later. Developing and promoting technology to prevent these tragedies is an urgent priority. Okay. America has done this in many other areas, from making cars safer to improving the tablets and phones we use in every day. In other words, GPS. We know that researchers and engineers are exploring ideas to improve gun safety by tracking of lost and stolen guns. Millions of dollars are being invested in support research into the content that range from fingerprint scanners to radio frequency identification to micro-stamping technology. As the single largest purchaser of firearms in the country, the federal government has an opportunity to advance this research and ensure that the smart gun technology becomes a reality. And it's possible to do so in this way to make the public safer, and is consistent with the Second Amendment. Hey, they acknowledged the Second Amendment. Hey, that's a first. Today, the President has taken action to further this work in the following way. Issued a presidential memorandum directing the DoD, DOJ, Department of Homeland Security to take two important steps to promote smart gun technology. Increase research and development efforts. The presidential memorandum directs the department to conduct or sponsor research into gun safety technology that would reduce the frequency of accidental discharge or authorized use of firearms. And improve the tracing of lost and stolen guns within 90 days. These agencies must prepare a report outlining research and development strategy designed to expedite the real-world development of such technology and use for practice. We're going to see microchipping of guns, probably with GPS. Yeah. Promote the use of acquisition of the new technology. The memorandum also directs the department to review the availability of smart gun technology on a regular basis and explore potential ways to further the use of the department and improve gun safety. In connection with these efforts, the department will consult with other agencies that require firearms to take appropriate steps to consider whether including such technology and specification for an extra firearm would be consistent with the operational needs. Okay, so what they want to do is create a way of being able to track guns, essentially. Probably with GPS, more than likely. Do I have a problem with that? Oh, yes, I do. I have a big problem with that. Big problem. Why? Quite simply, by tracking the guns, you can see who has the guns, legally and illegally. I have a problem with you being able to track people who have legal guns. Because, they talked about creating a gun registry. Congratulations, you did it. Backdoored it in. Yeah. You know who also created a gun registry? Nazi Germany, Russia, many other places. Gun registries are a bad thing. Because if something goes bad with the government, guess who they're first going after? Yeah, those of you with the guns. Yeah. So, overall, what do I think of this executive order or executive action plan? Pretty much it's a limp dick approach to gun control. It's all talk. There's nothing to it. If any conservatives go on saying how this is an edict from the king or anything like that, no. It's just stating the obvious that, shit needs to be done, and I'm going to use the law to make sure it gets done, and pretty much saying, we're going to do shit we should have been doing the whole time. The only problems I really have with it is the gun safety tech, because it's probably going to involve gun tracking, and the other problem's going to be, the other thing I have is them, once again, trying to place blame on gun shops and internet sales, which, there's very little evidence that those have actually been the source of guns used in violent crimes. Overall, I think this is just lip service. We're going to know, I think Thursday, they're actually going to be doing a real, there's actually a press conference, I think, on maybe tomorrow or Thursday, I believe. Yeah, I think they're doing a press conference on this. Whenever it is, I'm going to do another show around that time to discuss it. So we're probably gonna discuss it then. So we'll see what happens. Overall, this is pretty much nothing, much to do about nothing. There's nothing he can really do to, create a law. He's not overstepping his bounds. He's not trying to break the law. He's not breaking the law. He's not bypassing Congress. Although it'll probably make it sound like he's trying to. He's not. He's not doing a damn thing, really. All he's saying is, we're doing shit we should have done before. We should have been doing the whole damn time. Exactly. So, I don't think we're going to really see much. Yeah, Thursday, we're going to be seeing, yeah, that's right. I found it here. Looks like, Thursday, January 7th at 8 p.m., there's going to be a town hall meeting on guns that the president's going to be a part of. I'm not going to live stream it or anything because it's going to be on CNN, but I may, since it's on Thursday and I'm off on Thursdays, I may do a show on gun control then. I'm going to try and invite everybody on my friends list on Facebook and online, maybe hit up Twitter and see if anybody else wants to get involved in this discussion. Not going to live tweet it or anything, but I'll definitely take notes and discuss the key points with it on Thursday, probably whenever the town hall's over, maybe Friday. We'll look forward to that. Overall, there's nothing in here that oversteps boundaries. It's just more lip service from the president. I mean, let's remember that, that's all they've ever really done with gun control is provide lip service. I don't think they've ever really offered any real alternatives. It's, we're going to do better we need to do better background checks. Everybody does background checks now. Now, if you want to improve the system to make it more efficient, okay, I'm okay with that. If that's what you're trying to do. Not including the no-fly list and terrorism watch list. No, you cannot ban guns because of that. That is illegal, and that is punishment without due process. That's against the Constitution, and that is clear violation of the Second Amendment. We'll get into that one probably Thursday. On my feelings on that. Everything else, you're going to hear the conservatives go off on them probably tomorrow. I'm a conservative. I'll talk shit about my own about conservatives. The Republicans will go off on how he's doing this. The Democrats will probably, and the progressives will say, oh, here he is finally doing something that Congress won't do. Both of them are full of shit. Nothing's going to get done. This is just lip service. Let's see what happens Thursday. Be sure to follow me. I guess that wraps this up. If anyone has any questions, comments, post them online. It'll be in YouTube. It'll also be on my Facebook, M. Majeski on Facebook. Look up Matthew Majeski. That's MACIEJEWSKI. First name Matthew, 2 T's. I need to make that a little easier. Or you can always follow me on Twitter at Admiral Joker. Of course, my Ustream channel, JokerCast. So that does it for my inaugural episode of Quit Your Whining. Hopefully I have more people next time, maybe some people calling in and stuff. I know it's late, it's like 2:09 Eastern Standard Time, and most people are probably asleep by now, but I really just, this gives me an opportunity to at least do my first episode, kind of solo, work out the bugs and stuff. Luckily I didn't have many. Hopefully this actually got recorded. I've done that before, but it's been a while, and I look forward to doing more of these, especially since it's an election year and I'll have more free time. So I am Admiral Joker signing off for the night, and you have a good night.